2nd of May is our grad student lightning talks. We'll send out an email reminder soon as in a couple days, of what our expectations are about that. But basically, it's going to be many of you have been to conferences where at some point in the conference, the entertainment portion of the program are lightning talks about research. Come talk to me kinds of things. And this is what we imagine. It's going to be a couple minutes of a brief overview of your research. And give you practice giving elevator talks about your research. Okay, with that, Josh, thank you.
Okay, as John mentioned, let me tell you a little bit about microdata, which is a new format for semantic markup in web pages, and the schema.org website. So, there are a few different syntaxes for semantic markup in web pages. They're known collectively by Google as rich snippets. They include microformats, which is sort of the first and still very, very widespread. There's RDFA, which we'll talk about as well, and then there's, of course, microdata. So we'll explore the microdata syntax a little bit, and then talk about the schema.org vocabulary. I generated some statistics about deployment and the types that are being used out there right now, using Shinavier. So we'll look at that. Talk a little bit about mappings into RDF, tools for working with schema.org and microdata, schema.org extensions, and then we'll look at one specific extension developed in this lab, which is the dataset extension. So, rich snippets. And by the way, you can stop me at any time. It's very informal. Go look at the web page, whatever. So here are the three syntaxes. I mentioned they're all referred to as rich snippets, and Google does support all of these. So if you embed microdata or microformats in your web page or RDFA, Google will pick those up, although they don't necessarily have the level of support that microdata does. So there's microformats with RDFA, and there's HTML metadata as of last summer. So microformats have been around for around 7 years or so. They're based around the idea that you'd like to include a little bit of structured data in a web page, but you'd like the web page to also be readable to a human, so you don't want to interfere with the readability of the page. And it differs from the other two formats a little bit in that it starts by tackling some simple problems, like how do you, what's a good format for a business card or an address? Doesn't think too much about like a type hierarchy like microdata does. Designed for humans first, machine second. It is fairly widely deployed. As of a couple of years ago, there were already around 2 billion web pages embedded microformats. And at that time, the usage share vis-a-vis RDFA was about 94%. That's probably changed a little bit because of microdata. But still, it's pretty widely used. And there are a number of formats. There's formats for blog feeds, for calendars, addresses, business cards, and so on and so forth. And there's also semantic web work, mapping microformats into RDF. It's pretty semantic web.
And when you say, and you could actually do this up, this is fine. That's the next slide. When you say for humans first, you literally mean microformats are conceived so that humans can easily sort of invent them on the fly, right?
Right, and you could actually hand edit your web page and put in microformats. It's not too complex to do that. Here's an example of a div that would be embedded in a web page. This one's a V card or a business card. we've got some person's contact information as a type. This is their work information. The address portion is typed up. They have a street address. They have locality. These different key value pairs to describe their ID induction number, telephone, contact information, and their address, as well as the URL. That's basically what markup format is. You can see it is simple enough that you can actually go and code up some micro format markup. So then came RDFA, which is more explicitly geared towards RDF and semantic web integration. The stated goal is to sort of bridge the gap between HTML, which is intended for people, and RDF documents and data, which are only consumable by machines. So RDFA would like to get some of that same very rich structured data out of RDF documents and into HTML web pages. It's unconstrained with respect to vocabulary, so any semantic vocabulary can be used in RDFA, which contrasts with both microformats and microdata, which have more controlled vocabulary, or at least with the schema that we're So again, it's based on key value pairs. Items which are described in RDFA can be nested, and as I mentioned, it's especially good for interoperability. Here's an example. Maybe a little bit more complex than the microformats example.
So, Tom, I was actually going to ask you a question. There's this tension which you may get to RDFA versus microformats. What's wrong? What's wrong with RDFA?
Nothing's wrong with RDFA. The only thing is, microdata also exists now.
Right.
It's being supported by three of the biggest search engines.
Right. So it's there's a perception that somehow RDFA was more challenging, so we needed microdata. We needed something to a registry for vocabularies or schema.org. But what is the fun? Is it just controlling the domain? Is that the big issue?
Well, there's a big discussion about that at Centec last year.
That's when it happened. That's when it was announced, right?
That's when schema.org was So, yeah, that's sort of, again, the stated goal is to provide a simpler format that, in my opinion, is just an alternative format, an alternative syntax for semantic markup, which does have a centrally controlled, talking about schema.org here.
Right.
There's microdata and there's schema.org. And it's different in that microdata is intended to use HTML5, whereas
Do you talk a little bit about the structure that's necessary?
Yeah, so you have a type, which is both person here. That maps to RDF type statement. You've got a person. This person has a both name. Prefixes are defined. The other portion of the document. We have a mailbox. We have a phone number, just as in microformats. Except that specification includes an unambiguous parsing model and also an algorithm to convert microdata to RDF. The RDF that you get that way is not necessarily what you would use for, it's not always what you would want for to integrate with the semantic web. I'll discuss further mappings to map, say, schema.org types into more commonly used semantic web vocabularies. But it's designed from the ground up to be compatible with semantic web, like RDF. So I'll get into the syntax in a little bit more detail than microformats and RDF. Here's a property. The property, you can annotate an item with what we would call a plain literal value or a data type value. You've got a person somewhere up there, and it has this item prop attribute to the property, and the value property. As an RDF, you can have multiple values for the same subject, predicate, or item property. Here you've got two different values for flavor of this particular item. And microdata supports types, which are like classes, RDFS around. You've got something which is typed as a cat, and it has a bunch of information that's appropriate for a cat. You have an item prop, and you have attributes. Furthermore, you can give any item a global ID, which is a URL, can be a URI, EP, right? Semantic web term URI, which is URI. But then it doesn't need to be. Using the item ID properties, and that way you can provide a true semantic web description. Any questions on the syntax?
I actually had a question on one of the first slides. I think you had an item scope, but the item type was yeah, right. So what's the subject? I mean, is it
The subject is obscene.
right?
So
Okay. And that's the same with this, right? It's just kind of
So this one has some this one has a subject
right.
and it's also right. Okay, so moving on to the schema.org vocabulary. Schema.org is not the only microdata vocabulary. There are a few others that have existed for a while. But this is the most important one now. Like an RDFS schema, it includes a type hierarchy. So it starts with the top level thing, which is sort of like how thing, and on the top level data type, which is things like text, dates, and so on. And also like RDFS, a property which is defined for a supertype can also be defined in systems like that. Getting back to the question of why you would use microdata as opposed to RDFA, here's some good reasons. Like I said, RDFA is supported by Google, but schema.org, microdata is perhaps more types. Possible to indicate the type hierarchy in the space, but here are all the types. There are around 300 of them. Types from everything as common as a restaurant to, for instance, like Catholic church or a Hindu temple or a good store. So there are a lot of types.
Where do these come from?
These are from Shinavier. So I took the.
No, I know, but where are these contributed? Like you contributed, or is these?
No, these are already accepted. These are built in.
So they just hoovered up something, right? They did some analysis of the current state of the web and said, this.
Yeah, this is what was.
Yeah.
There are a few extensions, and I'll go over some of those. Of course, if you use data sets as an extension. There are only a few dozen of those. There are hundreds of these. But not all of these are actually used yet. Here are the ones that are really used. So, there are more than these, but the size of the text indicates to what extent they're used. This was generated by executing a bunch of queries against Semantic and seeing what kind of types come back. Most of them are products. Web pages are also popular. Have your review of the top 50 products, 27%, and then postal address 7%. I forget how many were actually discovered by Shinavier, but it's actually quite a few. It's just that most of them aren't very much.
That book one, that seems like, well, a lot of these seem like they would be the results of database-based systems, like products, books. Amazon's got to have more than 1.1 million books.
Yeah, well, this is just a representative sample. Exactly how representative it is depends on exactly what Shinavier has crawled.
I see.
Okay. I also looked at who was using microdata or schema.org microdata specifically. A bunch of pretty obscure websites under the top. CouponCabin.com. A bunch of these are travel websites.
Yeah.
Most of the sort of the top-ish websites that I looked at are legitimate websites and not just spam. I think they're just the ones that have worked the hardest at SEO and jumped on this train, really started describing a lot of their offerings. Also, the way this is generated is that the sites that use a lot of different types of schema.org types appear higher. This isn't the absolute, doesn't reflect the absolute number of deployed animations. It's the number of times.
So how well they're,
It's
How much work they put into it.
how broadly are these?
yeah.
Here's some of those. The top websites here. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about schema.rdfs.org, which represents the semantic web integration effort that's going on around schema.org. Provides mappings into RDF, different than default mapping, which is part of the microdata spec, but actually mapping into semantic web vocabulary, both shot, and so on and so forth. And there's some of those.
And this went out like, was it like 24 hours or something after they announced it? Was like really quick. This is Michael Hausenbach.
tools for working with schema.org. The important ones is Google Rich Snippets testing tool. So if you want to see what microdata or microformats or RDFA is embedded in a given web page, point to the Rich Snippets testing tool to that page. You'll see these things. There are libraries available in a bunch of different programming languages. There are modules for some blogging platforms. And there are a bunch of online tools as well. Microdata extractors, generators, validators, both Google's own tools and other responsive tools and community tools. And cndshade.com is what we use for generating visualizations. So as I mentioned, there are a bunch of schema.org extensions. Some of them have already been accepted into schema.org. So job posting, for example, is now in that schema.org hierarchy. There are a number of others which are pending and proposed in various states of being accepted.
So something that's unclear to me is what is the process? For example, is yours a proposal at this point?
Yeah. So ours is a proposal. It's been announced on the public vocabs list.
Okay.
So that's sort of
That's
what you do to propose.
okay.
I'm not really sure what the acceptance process is. Or talking about, I guess, or getting enough discussion going on.
We should figure that out. I mean, I know it's been kind of nebulous. Tried to understand that, and they don't make it obvious. It's not like the lease receipt or something. It's not a process. They don't know what the process is.
Yeah, there's no well-defined process. So a few extensions on any of this here, but specifically the data set extension. And this has been developed in connection with working with the government data project here at World. So the idea is to take all of these hundreds of thousands of open data sets about which we have metadata and publish that metadata on web pages using microdata schema.org markup. The intention being that a user who's searching for data sets will be able to find them more easily and see them displayed better in search results.
Which is extremely interesting to government stakeholders who want to have their data found. The idea that Joe consumer can go to Bing or Google, search on something, and have the actual data set rise to the top and be nicely described.
So that's the idea of it. It's a pretty small extension. There are only 3 types and 5 properties at the moment. First of all, there's in the middle, there's the data set type, which describes data sets, an abstract data set like data set about seismic hazard zones in San Francisco, population data, schools in particular. Data download is a concrete downloadable version of the data set. An XML dump or an N-triples dump of the data set, CSV of the data set. And the data catalog is a collection of data sets, or a collection of data set metadata, like IODS. The properties, there are a couple of properties, catalog and data set, or catalog and data sets, and vice versa. keywords for indicating topics, spatial property for indicating spatial extent of the data set. For example, spatial extent of San Francisco seismic zone, state San Francisco. And it only needs to have a few types of properties because schema.org already contains, it's already pretty rich with types of properties that you can use. So those three types and five properties that you saw are all in PCAT mapped to PCAT data catalog data. The name is the same as data catalog data. But many other types of properties are inherited from schema.org, and together they cover about 2/3 of the category, and about half of another data set description
Which will make the Europeans very happy. The asset description, ADMS, this is a schema that's has been developed as part of an EU-funded effort. There's going to be what do they call them? Order or something. Everybody here familiar with the EU process? When they issue a mandate or the EU says,
For like your funding strategy?
yeah, so countries will be using ADMS to sort of, it's kind of a high-level picture of that there is data available in this notion of an asset. And it's a superset of TCAT, which will be a W3C very shortly. It's sort of it's about to go into first public working draft status, TCAT. So this will all be very interesting to the community. I wonder if there's a
Okay, so here's an example of some microdata markup about a data set. It's quite as compact as the other example. It's actually properties and values. But here we've got something that's typed as a data set, taking the liberty of defining the schema.org space for that. So it's a schema.org data set. Its name, the size of hazard zones, it's got the URL, it has a description, spatial extent, which United States. This is actually drawn from a lot of these properties. I said San Francisco, United States. It has a publisher, has jurisdiction, name, property. Is that readable?
Why is this considered easier than arguing that?
I'm not arguing. It's
Oh, I know, but what some people are. I'm wondering what the common arguments for it are. I mean, obviously, things like item prop is clearly shorter because it's just a string. But the classes look like they're just as, still URIs.
that's a valid point.
Well, I think one argument is that it's kind of weird. It's a cognitive dissonance. Okay, the one thing is that it's a narrowly defined set of vocabularies.
Yes.
Okay, it's not an open world. Right. In theory, it is because you do extensions, but it's a closed world. So closed worlds like the big search engines like telling the world of webmasters, you can do everything with this set of vocabularies. Right. Like that. Right.
They could have done that in RDFA though too. So
They could have.
Here's the vocabulary. We're going to use it in existing.
Right, but RDFA has come at it from a different way. I mean, Google could have
Yeah.
done the same, well, not, I'm sorry, Facebook could have done the same thing with the open graph format. They could have said do a select, a subset of RDFA. They could have said, a subset of all attributes, but they said, this is what we're doing. It's very, so, the world of webmasters,
Yeah.
it's sort of a webmaster management kind of an issue. The other thing is the markup is a little bit different because it's done. It's not done as attributes. It's in a normal. It's not done. RDFA is attributes on XHTML markup, whereas this is stupid DOM tricks.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing that's shocking to me about this is that they're not just coloring the link graph. RDFA does that, where you know, here's what would normally be a link that you ordinarily see between two resources.
Right.
And here's the property for it.
Yeah.
And in the simple case, that's all you need. In that case of coloring the link graph here, I can kind of see it if I stare at it for about 5 minutes.
Right. So I think if your point, I think, is that the HTML or XHTML markup is sort of it doesn't matter.
It's separate.
Yeah, it's totally separate. Okay. Whereas in RDFA, it's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. And that could be part of the argument. Architecture. No, it could be part of the argument for this against RDFA.
Oh, well, how would that be the argument for this then? I mean, because especially since Google relies so heavily on the value of the link. I mean, they're the ones that really realize that.
Well, that's a separate thing. Oh, I mean, are you going to talk about the algorithm?
No.
Or not gonna? But I think
Which algorithm?
you talked about the parser. Yeah. Were you going to talk about the parser at all? But I think the thing is they manage those things separately, probably. It's kind of a fool's errand to try to anticipate what they prioritize.
Yeah.
It's Wednesday, Thursday night.
And I mean, it sounds like Google at least is okay with RDFA.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious how they handle. Is it one or the other, or do they simultaneously consider it? Because you can do. You can head, but
Yeah, you can combine RDFA and microdata. In my opinion, the resulting markup has lost anything from specificity.
It's a nice way to put it.
So here's what the same thing would look like in RDFA. Maybe slightly messy RDFA. Again, this is generated from data that came out of the Sparkle endpoint using a generator that I wrote. I'm no expert on RDFA, and I'm not an expert on microdata either. But basically, this works. You point to the rich snippets tool. This is the same metadata as you saw. Microdata. So in this case, we've got a subject. It has a type. So here it's explicitly a recap data set, which is what the data set type maps to. Title, target zone, term style, description, spatial extent, which again is United States, and in this case it actually points to either resource in the United States, title of the United States, and again publisher, organization.
Now there's actually there's a significant difference here in that this actually has what I guess it's because this is RDFA. You have the URI for what this is about up there, and the other one didn't have the URI.
That's arguable because that's I'm using the same thing as the URI here that was used for the URL here. That's used as the
I'm talking about the about. The other one doesn't have an obvious about.
Yeah, that's right. So, score one for
But if there isn't an about, it's about the page.
Yeah, but
is definitely
I could have written it such that I use item ID.
Right, right. That's just a. Okay, but they're both. How do you represent the type in the other one?
Type object, special attribute. I did use more or less equivalent.
No, no, I mean, I was. This year. I mean, you do have that one in there, but I was. This is a big graphic. We know what this is about. It's about this, but we don't have that for the other one.
Yeah, I think
That's
that's
just
just
an
an artifact in my agenda. I could have used item ID. Okay, so in either case, we will extract more or less this data. This is the microdata case. It's data set. It's a name, description, spatial extent, country, publisher, these are lower cases, lower eyes, which is why you wouldn't want to use those necessarily as semantic web getting to them, here are a few resources for working with microdata and scheme.org. Spec, of course, scheme.org, self-explanatory. There's a mailing list I mentioned, which is where all the discussion about proposed extensions happens. There's a wiki page for the datasets proposal. There's some discussion for all of these slides online at the top. There's a world for tree diagrams. Cindy Chip analysis.
Can you go? Why don't you go to? Can you go to the demo? You've got a.
Here's the proposal page. Here's the show the package.
Right.
So on the left is the dataset extension with the ES prefix. Only 8 items there. The rest are all filled in with scheme.org character. And as I mentioned, that covers 2/3 of the second column. Not everything's in the DPAN, use ADMS, some overlap, tags, about half covered with data extension. And also void just because it's the vocabulary about data sets, but there's really very little overlap. It's really for describing hardware and some data specific. So the demo page is here. This is the example we're looking at. Once more, a lot of people
this an extension already being used within IOGD?
It's, we're hoping to integrate the same. Any version of the SMS.
So what he's done is he's used queries against the IOGDS data to construct this and to build this. So it's based on the IOGDS graph, but it's not part of IOGDS yet because our visual for IOGDS is to us. Right. So has Eric in fact done that for the results thing and it's to us too?
Use the data set attachment.
Yeah. So one of my questions would be, what is our next step in that direction? So this is a question I've had all along. It's a fundamental question about how search engines work. It's when we've got a site such as LogB or IOGDS, which is query driven, or anybody, Amazon, it's all database driven. I understand how we can present. I understand how you can do this, but you're only doing this with a tiny subset of all the data sets that we have in IOGDS. How do we make? How do we do markup such that Google knows about it for 850,000 data sets?
Yeah. Well, as we discussed, we probably need to get them on separate pages so that the spider will discover them. Do a search to find them. But then the links to data sets catalog hierarchy.
But so I hear that, and that would be kind of my first guess, but books in Amazon can be marked up using schema.org markup. But Amazon doesn't have a page that's got like 1 billion books. So how?
It has 1 billion pages.
Okay. Okay. I mean, so.
If you're saying that if we had a page for each data set, how many data sets?
Right now there's 850,000.
So we create 850,000 pages.
In theory,
and the crawler
it's
comes out.
parameterized.
The Google crawler or whatever comes around and starts crawling these 800,000 pages. Is that going to hurt?
That's why they have robot.txt. but you want it to crawl.
So what?
Ideally, we'd like each part page each part data sets to be independent.
No, that's not the question Patrick is asking. He's
I have a
asking
machine
if-
that's being pounded by 4 crawlers, one from each of those, Google Bing, whatever, and it's trying to index or
3 of them will pound it, the 4th will stop the robot getting it. So
That's true.
But so I'm being a little facetious because I did do a little bit of research, and it turns out that the way at least Google works is it will crawl anything that's within. If it's, I don't know whether it's 1 or 2. It can be, you can have parameterized URLs, but it's got to be like no more than 2 parameters, something like that. So you can literally, if ours were parameterized. People do this. People know how to do SEO. So I wish I understood this aspect of it.
So there was, within the datasets extension, there was a term, concept.
Describe it.
It's something that's downloadable.
Data download.
Okay.
I think it was called distribution.
No, it's the property to link.
Is that similar to what we consider data product?
What do you consider a data product?
An image
So, to be specific on what you're saying, so IOGDS is the I is the international. So these are catalogs from all over the world, most of which are not supplying link data or RDF data, but many of which are providing like CSV type downloads or other kinds of downloads, gzip downloads, that sort of thing. And to the extent that we have found that, that would be in our metadata, and we would have that be part of the metadata. So the idea behind it is that on an IOGDS listed data set, it should go to the page for that data set, wherever that is, in Italy, or if it can't go to that, it goes to the catalog or listing for them. In which case, a specific download isn't available. But so where the line of reasoning goes is by having our stuff done in this way, or arbitrary government website somewhere doing this. When you search for migration data for Italy, you will get a rich snippet, a nice rich snippet for that data. Okay, I'm picking on Italy.
No, I was just imagining you search for migration data for Italy and Massimo's pops up on the screen.
But you see, my point is that's going to show up, nicely. It's going to rise to the top, and it's going to be clearly displayed. And part of that information, if there is a data download, it's going to be part of that rich snippet for that.
Okay, I understand. Right. So that's what you're saying. What my next question was going to be is having schema.org and the dataset extension on our pages, say our publication pages, things like that.
Well, you wouldn't necessarily do data set for that, but yes.
Well, no, yeah, not data set. Yeah, it makes it it rises to the top.
Exactly. Makes it more findable, more clear. A lot of the niceness that you see Google. So Google, when you do a Google result, okay, oftentimes you'll see it very nicely displayed. There's a couple reasons why that happens. Number one, and this is ironic, is if you have a really simply defined website for like your organization or club, oftentimes it figures it out. You got this really nice grid of information. I didn't do anything. I just put my website up, and it does it. That's because you've used essentially like an ad hoc format, like microformat or whatever. Or if you've used microformat, microdata, or RDFA to describe that, it will also render it very nicely. Okay, and what this does currently, the way data is normally done, presented, it's just it's all different. It doesn't make any sense. But and where we're going with this, and what Josh didn't really describe this. So in addition to what we're doing, we've got Alvaro working on OGPL, Open Government Platform. Okay? Alvaro is also working on this data.rpi.edu application of, it's kind of a data-oriented extension of DSpace. Okay, and he's also looking at exactly this.
So export the metadata from DSpace and
you're surfacing
make it presentable.
Exactly, which means that researchers' data that's being posted on data.rpi.edu, or arbitrary government using OGPL posting their data, it's going to be done in a uniform way. So sort of what's the value proposition for government using OGPL versus, why don't I just hack Google? Okay. It's OGPL, isn't it? The answer is it's going to automatically surface that metadata using this.
So would it make sense to have both schema.org and RDFA?
In terms of Google, it doesn't.
Well,
One or
you
the
can,
other is
right?
sufficient. Can you think of a reason why you want both?
Some search engines recognize RDFA and not schema.org. some recognize schema.org but not RDFA, and some recognize both.
I'm not aware of any that recognize RDFA and not schema. But I don't know.
So there might be
We're
generating
generating
big
RDFA
three.
for our website, so all of our publications, our people, our events, all those kinds of things have RDFA around them.
But why? But are we doing that for our own purposes? I mean, does that RDFA exist separately, or is the RDFA? Are we scraping that RDFA and using that for? So
We use it. We query the triple store, and then we translate the response into XHTML and put the RDFA properties in.
right for.
The specification does describe mixing syntaxes. I don't know if they.
Yeah, they have,
know,
what do they call them,
notation for it.
recipes or something like that? Or is that
It's not
Martin,
thinking of.
Martin Kaplan? They're recipes. It's a good relations that does recipes, maybe that's it. Ooh. Oh, it puts that really nice thing at the bottom there.
That was
Oh, nice. It did the nice thing about there's a editor's draft, but I don't remember in my version.
Well, it must be an extension.
Can't find it.
So, yeah,
I can imagine why you would want to.
So,
I won't
I-
want to put both in there. I
so-
was just asking.
so I did have a question. So you kept talking about how Google deals with microformats, microdata, and RDFA. Do the others as well? Do the other two also deal with all three of them? Or is it just Google that deals with all three of them?
I don't know.
Because that could be another issue. So I was just gonna, well, I think you already answered the question about what our future is with this. I think our intention is, so we've got some first targets, which we've mentioned, IOGDS, LogD, OGPL, data.rpi.gov, kind of that thing, but there's also doing it at the TW website is another good example. Maybe should we?
Yeah.
And
I don't even know if the RDFA is complete, so. But it would be nice to be able to.
Well,
listen to that one.
yeah, it's not a trivial thing. It's not because we're having to mark up. Josh